Hello, JennyEason here. Today, I want to talk about a Canadian crime family, the Bronfmans, and their connection to the Trudeaus. Well, we'll start off in 1800s. Why not? So in the 1800s, the Bronfmans immigrated from Russia to Canada. They were given land in Saskatchewan. Now, the story goes the patriarch of the family was a farmer back in Russia, and he brought tobacco seeds and had no success growing them in the harsh climate. So the family got into the hotel business. Now, that too proved to be non-profitable until they added prostitution and booze. So their brothels were called boozariums. And actually the name Bronfman translates to liquor man. So there were four brothers, Abe, Harry, Alan, and Sam. Now Sam becomes the most prominent of these brothers. He was the youngest, but that didn't mean that he wasn't the most powerful. So Sam, being the baby, was very brutal to his older brothers, very aggressive. They say he had a violent, explosive temper, and he eventually dominated his brothers and took over the family business. Okay? Now, the brothels were very profitable, I said, and also they expanded the business. They got around the prohibition laws in Canada as well as the US. They got around the laws in Canada by, this was Sam's idea, they distributed the booze as medicine. So all they had to do was slap labels on it. Harry opened up a drug company. So you could say he was a pharmaceutical company. They slapped the label medicine and distributed it through pharmacists, and they had a mail order business. So this was very, very profitable. So they opened up what they call export houses all along the border of the US and Canada, and they thrived financially. Now, in the beginning, Sam was the one that mixed the booze, and it wasn't uniform. They say it didn't taste really well, and also it was dangerous. People were dying of alcohol poisoning back then, so he eventually got the recipe and formula correct. So they were doing business where the cost of making the whiskey was $24 a barrel. They were able to sell it for $140 a barrel. So they cut deals to distribute through crime syndicates in the US through the mobsters. So they worked with people like Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, Bug Siegel, and Al Capone. So this proved to be smart because these mobsters were able to protect them against hijacking, and they were also able to expand the business. So they formed syndicates where they were able to acquire other labels. So they eventually got Johnny Walker and Seagram's, as well as some wines and whiskeys and champagnes they added to their portfolio of booze. And through their crime syndicate with Bug Siegel, Meyer Lansky, and those mobsters, Murder Inc. was formed. Isn't that interesting? Because you can see in popular culture where Murder Inc. was also related to a record label. So this is what inspires a lot of popular culture. So Murder Inc. was formed as a regulatory commission to police free enterprise advocates who might try to buck the syndicate and interfere with the booze sales. So this syndicate they had a meeting in Cleveland, and they were wondering, what are they going to do after Prohibition was over? So they decided to expand into narcotics. So they found a way to streamline a distribution of narcotics from Shanghai and Hong Kong. They negotiated with Chinese drug runners, and they were pressured by the British business community to pull together a very strategic opium cartel to expand their Shanghai heroin into the United States. Now, the brothers, the Bronfmans, they created the Atlas Shipping Company, and this helped them to expand operations and also acquire things like rums out of the Caribbean. They were able to hide money by moving it, laundering it, and investing it on, offshore havens. And lots of banks were backing them, banks that were in Hong Kong, Shanghai, the United States, Britain, Canada, and Switzerland. And all of this system, it revolved around drug money. So after the Prohibition and the fact that the family wanted to clean up their name a bit, and the British were one of their partners, okay? So the British didn't want the liability of being connected with these very flamboyant drug runners or bootleggers at the time. They considered the narcotics to be a little more, upscale. So the British had this grand idea to get Sam into foundations, philanthropy, to marry an elite woman to try to clean up his image. So he got involved in a lot of movements and associations and tried to legitimize their enterprises, being that they were the leading opium traders, and they acquired Seagrams. All right, so Sam decided, with his brute strength, that he didn't want his brothers to be a part of the Seagram's business. So he only wanted his sons to take over that business, okay? So his sons were Edgar and Charles. Charles was the youngest, and Charles is how we link Trudeau directly, because Charles, his son was Stephen. So Stephen was the chief fundraiser for Justin Trudeau. So I digress. Back to Edgar and Charles. So they expanded Seagram's to sell in 150 countries, and they became the largest liquor distribution system in world history. And this was intermeshed with narcotics. So, like I said, they acquired rum labels out of the Caribbean. They had Chivas Regal, they had Mumm Champagne and another champagne label. They also acquired Paul Masson Vineyards, as well as distribution rights to Absolute Vodka. They also invested in an Alberta-based oil company, Royalite, and they purchased the Franklin Oil Company, expanded Tropicana products, purchased the beverage operations of Dole Food, and they just expanded a lot. Oh, let me mention that back in the 30s, King George and Queen Elizabeth had visited Canada, and that's when Sam had the idea to create Crown Royal. And this was also his attempt to try to bring some legitimacy to their name. So they also got another oil company, Texas Pacific Coal Oil Company, and they were merging with other oil companies. They also had holdings with DuPont Chemicals. And Sam, in 1969, they cleaned up his image so much that he was made a Knight of Grace of the Most Venerable Order of St. John of Jerusalem, Her Majesty's official order, and he won the Order of Canada, and that was the country's highest honor for lifetime achievement. So even at his death, Sam Bronfman had, they said they shut down the airport in Montreal temporarily to allow for all the private jets to come in with dignitaries to pay their respects. So that's how important he had become. So his son, Sam's favorite son, Edgar, ascended to the business then. And Edgar actually was the one that acquired the rums. So that goes on his tab. And he had a strange incident in 1975. His son Sam was kidnapped, and there was a $4.6 million ransom for that son. And actually, I'll do another video about that particular story. It was rather interesting. So they, like I said, they had stakes in DuPont, and then Seagram acquired MCA. Then they changed the name to Universal Studios Inc., including Universal Pictures Film Studios, MCA Television Group, MCA Music Entertainment Group, Universal Theme Parks, and Spencer's Gifts. So they also purchased USA Networks, sold the juice business to Pepsi for $3.3 billion. And they Edgar Jr. comes in at this point, and Edgar Jr. was more interested in the entertainment side of things. So when he ascended to the throne, I'll say, because they consider this a royal family, these Bronfmans. Okay, so he was rather rebellious, Edgar Jr., and he wanted to just indulge himself in the Hollywood life. He loved music and wrote songs, and he also partnered with David Foster and had some success with Celine Dion, another Canadian. And Edgar Jr.'s sisters are Claire and Sarah Bronfman. You know, the NXIVM sex scandal and all of that with Rainier. And they funded the NXIVM sex scandal, which was really bizarre. Keith Rainier, they also tried to bail him out of his trouble financially when he got caught. This NXIVM sex scandal could be another subject in itself, of course. It ties in so deeply with so many people like Richard Branson, the Clintons, the Epstein, Maxwell. All of those names will come into view going into that particular subject matter. So Edgar Jr.'s sisters, Claire and Sarah, they pretty much spent almost all of their money, their inheritance, on this project of theirs, this NXIVM sex scandal, and trying to keep Keith Rainier out of jail and try to punish his enemies. And they lost every case, it said. So what happened with Edgar Jr. is that he got into a partnership with Vivendi Universal. So the CEO, Jean-Marie Messier, he did not make good on the promises to create an entertainment empire. And basically, Messier, he did some really bad investments and ended up losing the family 2/3 of their fortune. So they lost so much in these dealings. So Edgar Jr. brought a lot of loss to the family. And besides him writing songs and things like that, he married a black actress named Sherry Brewer. And he had a daughter named Hannah. And Hannah, She factors in as a really big social media influencer and a DJ. Sherry Brewer, being a black actress, I wanted to note that it said that Edgar ran into some problems with his father over marrying a black woman. And so he didn't speak to his father for quite a while because of that issue. So Hannah is DJ. Did I mention that? And it's interesting, a lot of the young women, they're DJs, and it makes me wonder what's really going on. If you have any ideas, share it with me, because not only Hannah, a socialite, is a DJ, you recall, Paris Hilton is also a DJ, and also the girl Rachel Chandler, she also was found on the wheels of steel. And I just wonder what that is all about with these young socialites and their DJ skills, traveling all over the world. Interesting. So let's see. Edgar Jr., with some of his dealings and losses, he tried to make a comeback and put together a group of investors to buy the music operations of Time Warner, but it was a bad investment as well, because at the time, the $20 CDs were something of the past, and now you have digital downloads, so he didn't see that coming, where the power shifted from the retailers to the consumers at that point. Bronfmans turned down EMI's offer to buy Warner, and he lost out there. It wasn't a smart thing. So Sarah and Clara, at the time, they borrowed against their inheritance and got an estimated $250 to $300 million each. And they helped Keith Raniere with that money out of their trust funds. And Raniere was losing money because he did bad investments also. So they lost money in real estate transactions and lawyers' fees, and they lost almost every lawsuit, it said. So back to Stephen, Justin's friend. They have some funny business there. Stephen was head of the private equity firm Claridge, and also created Claridge Food Group. So he was named in something called the Paradise Papers, and this was a fund out of the Cayman Islands that reaped huge profits from the 2008 housing crisis, where they bought up thousands of foreclosed homes across the U.S. and ended up turning those homes into rental properties. So, again, Stephen Bronfman, key fundraiser for the Liberal Party of Canada, and was part of the successful campaign of Justin Trudeau. So overall, this family has been involved in so much crime and scandal. And I'm sure there will be more subjects that come up dealing with these connections, because they go really deep. Like I said, they go across many platforms, such as foundations and various entertainers, politicians. And as you can see, doesn't matter if it's Canada or the US, this is the Americas, and these people don't really look at borders the same way. And it's just a lot to unpack with this family. Also, another thing that happened during the downturn and the loss on Edgar Jr.'s watch, the Seagram's building in New York City, they had a building in New York City And it was touted as being this architectural beauty, but it was rather plain. It's really hard for me to get impressed with these newer buildings when you think about the older construction. But I mean, it's really, plain. But it was said that it really added to the skyline of New York City. So, that's debatable. But they had to sell that building. And it was sold to the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association of America, or TIAA. And they had a Seagram house in Montreal, Quebec, that was donated to McGill University. So overall, these crime families, they worship money and power and, all of their influence on culture is just something to behold. But like I said, I will end up talking more about this at another time. And I thank you for watching, and I'll see you really soon.